Not now, you're on telly, come on.
Okay, cool.
Are we there? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Good, fine.
So where are we today? What's going on here?
We are in the fine town of Lee in Greater Manchester, in the north of England. We are in the Turnpike Gallery at the opening of a show called Lumia Domestica. I haven't actually done a gallery show before, so it took some time for me to think about what I might do in just a blank white room. And I don't quite know how we ended up with this, but this is where we headed, and it's been great fun. I mean, now that we live in a world utterly saturated by multimedia and video images, over the past couple of years I found that I've become much more interested in light and lighting again, which is kind of where I started. And the real joy of the turntables next door is that they make these wonderful patterns, and they kind of look a little bit iTunes, a little bit Doctor Who, but it's not video, it's not a recording. Everything you see there is being generated, you know, in front of your eyes. The other thing, of course, that's kind of important is taking these objects, which are really ordinary, everyday domestic objects, which, you know, in general walks of life would be considered utterly hideous, and rightly so. But with a little bit of light and colour and love, you can make something really beautiful out of them. And there was a YouTube show, Elevation, in 2001, where I took these big sort of giant trash cans, basically, and they were perforated, and then inside was a 5K light bulb, just a naked light bulb, and the thing revolved. And you look at it and you understand immediately what's going on. It's basically a trash can with holes in it, with a light bulb inside it that's turning around. Because all of this is a continuation of a train of thought which has run through all of my work, really, which is that the more high-tech a show is, I felt have needed something very simple, low-tech, and human to make it accessible. It makes a big, possibly cold and technical show much more human. It's a point of contact with the audience, because on some level they know that they could have done it themselves. You know, anybody could have done this, for example. Now, why they would have wanted to, I don't know, but as opposed to when you go and see a band and there's tons of video and it's just a big assault, and it's, you know, it might be amazing and it might be fascinating, but there's no real connection with the audience in terms of the thought of being able to do it themselves. So it's about finding beauty in unusual places. So that's really what it's about. And also just using light to transform mundane things into things which are either beautiful or slightly sinister. Most of the objects in there were just found at thrift stores and charity shops. But there's a few special ones. Swarovski lent us a couple of pieces, including our crystal walrus, which has made it into the show, which is a very fine object. But I was very relieved to find out that, that these things, which are 50p, it's like $1 from Marks and Spencer's, work great. So there's a bit of a mystery, you can never tell. And of course, after a while, people started giving me things. So my studio now looks like your wedding present nightmare. And one of them, there's a fruit bowl that produces the face of Satan.
When did you first discover that? Like, what happened?
What, the face of Satan? Appeared last night, just as I was sort of fluffing and finishing off, ready for the opening.
There's another great one on the opposite wall that's in the center, where it sort of unfolds a spiral.
Yeah, that was the first one that I found. And it's a very simple object, but just the way the light hits through it, it spirals up kind of like a nautilus shell. Again, it's just a surprise. I sat in a darkened room for half a year and experimented with these things. And the simplest ones are my favorite. The jug is my favorite. I just bought that on the street in New York. And it's a simple hexagonal faceted jug, very plain. And it looks like the Holy Grail when it's burning away. There are loads of things I tried which I thought would be great. What's not to love about this? It's perfect. It's got little hexagonal facets. It's absolutely great. Useless. This is the psychedelic living room. And it's just an extrapolation of the notion of taking something domestic, ugly and everyday, like a cake stand, and transforming it with light. And this is sort of an extrapolation of that, really. I can't really tell you where most of these thoughts came from, but it just once we were on that trajectory, it was fine. And the CDs on the record player are a real favorite. I'm particularly proud of the strobe light in the IKEA table lamp here. And it's just a piece of fun. But what's nice about it is that there's like a barricade, so people can't come into the room. And on top of the barricade, there are 8 buttons, which are not labeled in any way. And so people come in and the room's dark, and then if they push one of the buttons, each button controls something in the room. And the first people in here today were a bunch of kids, small kids, and they all came charging in, and they're hitting every button in sight. And then they realized that nothing more was happening, so they're all saying, stop pushing, stop pushing, stop pushing, so they're waiting for it to go off again so they could figure out what was there. Now, it's been a great day just watching people figure out what's going on and respond to it. It's been really fun.
Right on.
Tungsten's where it's at.
Excellent.